Okay, this is Ronnie Trost, hot rod building extraordinaire show. So this project is to convert the V pulley belt system to Serpentine with a automatic tensioner. I saw some fancy ones, chrome and all this stuff, but you still got to adjust it yourself, which I didn't like, especially when they want to charge $1,200. I'm like, why doesn't it have a tensioner? Oh, we don't think it needs one. Nah, I don't want to hear that. So then I found the one that's basically, it's not chrome and all that, but it's a new system. It's $800. It has a belt tension. One big serpentine belt. But before I do that, I just want to show you how to make your life easier when you're working on these hot rods. This is a fiberglass hood, which it came with the car, I think. But anyway, it has a hole in the middle of it already cut out, which I didn't like because I had to keep building stuff to make it look decent. But then I said, you know what? I need one of these things here to push the air in to go down into the carburetor anyway. I just didn't want to spend the money at first, but for like $100 bucks you get one of these, and then you get the extensions, and you want to seal it so the air doesn't get in to your engine. And then you like put your hand in like that, tighten it down, and you can buy these at AutoZone to make it long so it fits the right size. And you have a filter in there that filters the air. But the reason I want to tell you about the fiberglass hood is because to access your engine, it's hard to work on a car if the hood is attached. So usually a lot of people will unbolt the hood, and you need your friend to help you carry it, you know, and then you got to line it up again and make the hood latch match and all of that. But with this hood, it's lightweight, and I hold it down with hood pins. So all I do is I grab it like this by myself, and I just lift it up like this, and now I access my engine. You can clean that or put it down in the grass, whatever you want to do. So the other thing is the air conditioning system. Normally on a car like this, probably not going to work. I mean, unless you're really a good air conditioner guy, or you want to spend the money and keep hiring somebody. If the air conditioner doesn't work and you're not going to fix it, just take it all out, because it's taking up space over here. Let me refocus the camera right there. So normally you'll see a unit coming out like this, blocking your access to your engine. So I just removed it all, and then I put this metal plate in with screws. I painted over it yellow again, but there's a big air hole right here that you have to cover up. But once you cover it up, see, now I have access to my exhaust headers. I have access to my transmission lines. I have access to my fuel lines. I have access to wiring, and all of this stuff is now available to me that was blocked before. So also for the hood pins, I cut these little pieces of rubber to hold it to the right height, because the windshield wipers were getting stuck. But by holding the hood up, with these, the windshield wipers can move. I got a new windshield wiper motor. Okay, practically everything on this car has been replaced. Anything that you can bolt on or bolt off has been replaced with a different hot rod part. Newer, better, stronger, whatever. The only thing basically is original is the shell. Maybe the differential in the back, maybe the steering column. The seats are different, everything, radiator different, engine different, transmission been rebuilt. But now I can access my vehicle, my car, without all of the interruptions. So what we want to do, let me zoom in, see if we're still on. Actually, I'll just edit. Now, it's been said that the small block Chevy was like one of the greatest engines ever built. However, it has issues, especially with the V-belts, which I don't like, because if you've had a new car, you know that it has an automatic belt tensioner. You never have to touch it. The only thing you have to do is change the belt every couple of years. It wears out and you're back to good again, unless water pump breaks or whatever. But the concept of the V-belt is that it goes down into this groove, and then on the other side it pulls itself back out of a V-groove, which to me doesn't even like make any sense when you're talking about friction. Like, you're shoving it down in there and then you're pulling it back out continuously during the revolution. And then on top of that, you have to keep adjusting it. You have to keep adjusting this bolt. You got to loosen it here, adjust this, and you got to do the same for this. Loosen a couple of bolts you can't hardly reach just to tighten it, and then a couple months later you got to tighten it again, and a couple months later you got to tighten it again, and then it breaks or wears out, and now you got to replace it and start the process all over again. So the whole concept is bad. Now the rest of the engine is good. So, you know, your new cars have your Serpentine belt. But when you go look up the hot rod chrome ones, like I said earlier, there's no tensioner. So there's one that has a tensioner. So the whole package costs $800, because they're going to give you a new, now you see there's no air conditioner unit. But this is going to end up on this side, and there's going to be an air conditioner unit. So instead of the air conditioner unit, they give you just a pulley where the air conditioner unit would be, just to make the whole system work. And then there's a tensioner right here that puts the tension, and then you're done. You know, it's maintenance free after that until you're ready to replace the belt, which should take about 5 minutes. Once you buy the new belt, you should be able to pop it off, pop a new one on, bam, let go of the tensioner, you're back in business again. It's supposed to add 12 to 15 horsepower, but I'm not one really concerned about the horsepower. I'm more concerned about the maintenance. I don't want to take my hood off and tighten these belts. I don't want to hear them squeak. I don't, you know, it's raining, they start squeaking, they're loose, they get hot, they get loose, you got to tighten them, you got to bolt it. It's like, I don't want to do all that. But I do like the engine. So I bought the package at $800. But all of this has to come off. And I don't even know if the new package is all going to fit on there right. I mean, you got different year engines. I don't know if the bolts are going to fit right, because all of these mounting brackets are replaced. So this is an experiment for myself to see what's going to happen. But it comes with a different water pump, a different reservoir, power steering unit, different alternator, different brackets, everything. Different pulley on the crank. So, I mean, this is going to probably stay the same, this fan. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to put the $1,200 fuel injected computerized carburetor, because I don't like this either. You got adjustments, you got idle, you got problems with the idle mixture, you got problems with the choke, you got problems. All of that stuff has been replaced now with computers. It's a no-touch system. The computer is on the dashboard now, and I'm going to show you, and we're going to do that together. But that's a second, this first, then this one second. These idle mixture screws to me don't even work. You got to adjust the choke, you got to change it for the temperature, it dies at the red light. It's like, it's a mess. I don't even want to buy a new one for $300 because it's just too many adjustments. But the new one, the computerized one, is self-adjusting, self-learning. So that's the next project. Project 1, Project 2. That's why I had to put the new headers on, because you have to have an oxygen sensor welded into the header, but my old headers were rusty. So there's no reason to try to weld an oxygen sensor into a rusty old pair of headers with little holes in it, because it has to have it can't have holes in it, you know. So all of that had to be replaced. So I just spent like a month putting new headers on it. It didn't fit right, because I got the cheap ones on Google or Yahoo. I think it came from Walmart. Not that they manufactured them, but that's where I bought the. That's where I bought it, and they didn't fit right. So I had to work with sledgehammers to get the metal to bend around parts. There's some dents in my headers now, rather than go out taking it back and trying to buy ones that fit right. So I'm like, I'm not wasting. It's faster to hit it with a sledgehammer than it is to send it back in the mail and wait for new ones. You can't really see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's the project. So I'm going to remove all of this, so then I'll stop the camera, and then we'll start putting it back together piece by piece. And hopefully when we're done, we'll have a beautiful serpentine belt system. Well, this is the kit, so I thought I'd show it to you. It's all taken out of the box. These are bolts that have stickers in their pouches. Water pump. The crank pulley. Air conditioner pulley assembly type of thing. Water pump pulley. This is the tensioner. This is the dead pulley for what would normally be the air conditioner. This is what holds the main thing that holds the air conditioner. Alternator. Some more pulley stuff right there. And that's the kit we are going to put together. Some instructions, but it's not necessarily some pictures in there, but you can get it on the internet. So there you go. Alright, so we're at the next stage. So basically I removed everything on the front of the engine, as I said I would. There is a high performance harmonic balancer already installed. New timing chain was already installed. Water pump wasn't bad, but I didn't want to take the chance that it wouldn't fit right. Even if it's off by just a little, it could mess up the new belt. So I just said, might as well start from scratch with the part that they gave me. So I used degreaser, plastic brush, carburetor cleaner, a little wire brush, and got it all cleaned up and ready to start the install. Alright, the first thing to install is a water pump, and remember to scrape off the old gasket with a razor blade scraper on each side. Then I like to put a little gasket sealer and the gasket on both sides of the gasket sealer, just in case there's an imperfection in the metal that it's sealed. Then torque the bolts that they came with to 30 foot-pounds. Or if you got inches on your torque wrench, you just multiply it by 12, and that will give you 360 inch-pounds. And that was the first part of the installation. Okay, I ran into my first problem, which is the fuel line coming from the fuel pump here is blocking the new whatever you call this thing, bracket, which is going to go here. But I'm going to redesign the whole fuel system for the computerized electric carburetor, and I'm just going to have to do that later. I think what I'm going to do is I might wind up, because I like to use both mechanical fuel pump and electric fuel pump, but I'm just going to run a line out here. I tried to bend it, but then it goes right in front of here, like, okay, so you bend it and then you're right in front of this. So you really needs to come out in some form, maybe like this or something like that. So that's the first problem. But believe it or not, these bolts do line up. There's two down there and there's a stud right there. So that's good. I think this is a 1990 Chevy block, but the first thing you do is put this stud in here, which came with it. And as you can see, I kind of gnarled the threads up just a little bit with vice grips, but I think that part's going to get covered up with the metal. So I'm doing it again, just to get it in there good and tight. Not too tight because you strip the thread, but more than hand tight. So then this is going to go theoretically. See, no, that's not like that. That's not working. Why is it hitting the pump? Alright, gonna have to take a break. Okay, so the trick to getting this on was to take the stud back out, just put it in this hole, get it started just a little bit. But this has, like, you can't put the stud in first and then slide it on, so you have to get it to fit, and then you can screw the stud on. So you have to like screw it while it's partially installed. It's just a weird kind of a jigsaw puzzle thing right there, but it does. So from under the car, I got the two, they're T kind of hex nuts, and then the directions tell you the proper foot-pounds. So you can buy these pretty nice good set of T, and I got like a reverse adapter because it's a 1/2 inch, but converted it back to 3/8. Alright, so all that fits real snug. And got antifreeze all over my ratchet. Kind of had to do a little math with the ratchet because it's in inch pounds and they give it to you in foot pounds and how many notches, but you just kind of got to be a bit of a mathematician in order to get that right. Down here you got to figure out, you know, take the time to just sit down with the calculator and some paper and a pen and just calculate up the inch pounds versus the foot pounds, and then how much, you know, go up and down along here turning it and see how much does a notch or a double notch make. I mean, just sit down and just figure it out. It's like a math question, and once you get that going, your torques are going to be correct, which is good because now, you know, you torque it to the right specification. It's not going to come loose when you're driving it. If you just try to hand tighten it, maybe it's too tight, maybe it's too loose, and that's the bottom part. So you can see where my my fuel line was coming up right here, and so I'm going to have to replumb that later. So then the next item on the directions is this idler pulley. It's 2 sizes bigger. This is actually called a star socket set. Impact star socket set. I don't know if you can read that. Impact stars 8P. So it's 2 sizes bigger. And I'm going to use a different torque wrench. So it actually comes in pounds. So I'm going to use my 1/2 inch drives. So there's 2 of these. Also, don't forget this bolt here had to be torqued. So you kind of have to fit your torque wrench inside there, which is kind of difficult, but it was possible. So I got that done. So then I'm just going to torque these down. And get brought back. Alright, so the next step is the air conditioner compressor, if you're using one, or the pulley. So we put that in there. The directions are kind of complicated, trying to read them instead of looking at pictures, but it's actually quite simple. So you have one of these bolts, and then you have a stud, which eventually is going to have 2 nuts on it, but you don't need the stud for the top part. So you put that in there like that. Okay, you torque it to your 37 pounds. But you need the stud because you're going to hook a brace up to the bottom. So you're going to put the stud in there like that, and it's going to hang out the back, which doesn't really make much sense. I have to read the directions again on that, but just kind of go by the thread. There's threads on this side, so you're going to go in here, I think. I'm going to have to go and find out. what to do. But anyway, you're going to have a brace if it's really necessary. But anyway, that's the next step. Alright, so going back and looking at the directions, I figured that basically you screw this in till the threads stop. And then it says torque it, but I don't know how you could torque a stud, so I'm not going to torque it. Now, I've seen studs that have things on the end of them that you could put something in there, a hex key, and torque it, tighten it or loosen it. But this one doesn't even have it on there, so I don't think it's even necessary. But basically, you're going to screw this in on the short. Otherwise, it'll go. The short threads are on that side. You screw it in until it stops, which then leaves you enough space. Actually, it doesn't leave you enough space. You're supposed to have enough space for 2 bolts. It's not leaving enough space. So there's some sort of problem with this that we've come up with. So because if you go the long way, it's going to make it even worse. Well, you know what? I don't think you can torque this, and I think that's a clerical error. So what I would do is, when it comes out to the end, that's all you get. Like you see it coming out the end there, that's all you need. And then you put this nut on, and you kind of hold it steady. You hold it steady while you torque it. And I can't do that I don't have an extra hand, so I just got. Well, ran into my first bad problem. The stud broke off from the torque. It snapped off, which I knew it was twisted and stripped it. So what that means is I got to get another stud, and I can't use their torque specifications because they're too strong for their own parts. And there you have it. That's it. That's what. All right. So we had our first quote catastrophic failure. So this stud that they tell you to put in there and torque, which you can't torque because there's no way you could just torque the stud. Then if you torque the nut onto the stud according to the directions, it snaps off. So it leads me to believe that I can no longer trust the torque specifications, because the things are going to break. So it's okay. I'm just going to have to use my wisdom of how tight a bolt should be by experience. So it's just like a feel touch, like that's good and tight. And I'm not going to use the torque specifications, because obviously they don't test their products properly, or they change a part number and maybe it's a cheaper metal than what was the previous part number when they first tested it, but they didn't retest it with the new part. But you can't trust it now. So we got this far. The next is we're going to bolt up this power steering unit and alternator bracket is the next step. And I have to order this part from GM now at the dealer to replace this stud. And then I'm not going to torque it. I'm just going to tighten it. This one torqued okay, but then this one broke. So there you have it. Next step. Alright, so I was actually wrong about what came next. The tensioner comes next, and then the crank pulley. So the bolt is the star, so you do need the whole kit. The star kit. The thing I was kind of happy about is just that stud broke and not a piece of metal like off the end of this, because then I would have had to order something or tell the company to send me something and whatever, you know. The stud, not a problem. It just a signal not to use their torque specifications, because they probably work on most of them, but then the one that don't work, you could break something. So then what I do is, I've stripped enough bolts in my day to get a feel for how big a bolt is before it strips, before I twist it too hard. Years and years of working on cars. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to tighten it. I very rarely have my bolts come loose or nuts or whatever anyway, so we're just going to trash the torque specifications. So when we tighten this thing here, we're just going to do it by feel. We're just going to go like that, and that's tight. A little bit more like that. Okay, right there. Now, if it comes loose, I'll notice it. I see it jiggling, so we're not really worried about the torque specifications. We'll come back and test it again. Just, like that. And there you have it. So that's why I make these videos. In case you buy this kit, you can save yourself some time by watching my videos. Even if you get the video from the company, they're not going to tell you their parts are going to strip off. They're going to act like everything works perfect when you watch the video. Alright, stop right there. Alright, so the next piece is the crank pulley. And you know, sometimes when you follow the directions it don't work, but they actually tell you to put this bolt in first and torque it, but how you gonna line these up if that's torqued? So I think you want to put this in last and line these three up first. And again, like I said, it's like it's like Star Wars. Don't use the torque specifications, use the force. Let the force tell you how to tighten it. So now that we're dealing with something that's on the bottom of the car and has a chance of vibrating loose, what we do is we put some thread locker. I like this gel stuff. The liquid stuff kind of just drips on the ground, so I think you get a better deal with this thread locker. So it just, you don't use the hard stuff because you may want to take the bolt off someday. Just puts a little plastic coating on the threads that you can unlock it if you have to. If you have to remove it, it's not permanent. It just gives it that little extra, so the vibrations won't shake the bolt loose. Sometimes the bolt starts getting a little loose, it'll just vibrate its way out. But if you got the thread locker on there, it holds it in place. And since it's on the bottom of the car with the engine, the crank, I don't want to deal with it on the side of the highway like, oh, it came loose, I got to tighten it. I don't mind tightening something on the top. Just grab the toolbox and tighten something up. Okay? But if it's on the bottom of the car, I don't want to mess with it ever again. Till I have to. Especially on a long trip on the highway. So we got a thread locker. We got a nice, good 1/2-inch drive. Changed down to an adapter to a 9/16. And we're going to put the pulley to the harmonic balancer on. Alright, so what I'm going to do with the middle bolt is I'm going to use the impact wrench, and once it goes in there, when it impacts, it's going to tap it like that. When it stops moving, 1 or 2 more taps, tut tut tut, pull it out. You don't want to keep tapping it because this does have the ability to strip things, and the last thing you want is this thing stripped inside your crank. So I actually have one in my van that barely hangs in there, and you can tell it's stripped. But I'm going to leave the camera on, and so you get an idea of. I mean, it partially depends on how much power this has. Like, if you have a very high-powered one, this is like a cheap one from Harbor Freight. I wouldn't go too, you know, you got to regulate how much pressure. But this one, I kind of have it set. It's not really set, but it's cheap enough where I do my lug nuts and bolts this size with a couple of taps. Then I know it's a couple of taps to get the lug nuts off the wheel. And you always want to reach in there and test it to make sure it ain't loose. And so that way, when if I ever remove it, I know it's only going to take a couple taps to remove it. As a matter of fact, now that I think of it, I'm going to go ahead and put some of this thread locker on there too. Just thought of that. Don't have to put it on there, but again, it may keep the bolt from falling out on the highway if the vibrations, especially with a diesel engine. Diesel engines vibrate all your nuts, bolts, and nuts. It's crazy. So always use thread locker on diesel engines. Now, let's get under here. That's it. And that part, so again, we have the directions telling me to hook this up first and then hook up the lines. But I'm like, why? I mean, crawling under there to hook up the lines, after you hook it up, when they're flexible to begin with, to me, it's wasted effort. So I'm just going to hook them up. If you sort of get it in position, then you line up 2 lines, same they came off, the same way they came off, same way they go on. Oh, come on. Now it's giving me trouble. Okay. This little clamp needs to go on there. Okay, so turn around there, boy. So put that flexible, so it shouldn't be a problem. You put that on there. Before you clamp it down. It's still too tight. I think this one. Okay. Well, I'll just tighten that up like that. If it doesn't leak, I'm good. If it leaks, I have to go down there and tighten it a different way. So that's that. It's a little greasy. So what I'm going to do is just spray it with some carbon cleaner just to clean it up. That. Make it look real nice. Probably won't last, but anyway. So then we got the 3 bolts they gave us. So there's 3 holes right here. 3 holes right here. So we need to get something. Oh, that's not good the way that's sitting there like that. Oh, I'm gonna have to bend something. It's just enough to be hitting this one. So let me see if I can bend that a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Still not right, but it's good for now. Okay, so looks like I'm gonna need an extension to get this in there. That may all have to be readjusted later, as you can well see. So here, let me get this into that hole. Like that. Lift it into place. That. Let's go with it. And there it goes. Supposedly. Like that. We got 5 of these. Go in here. That. There's 2. There's going to be 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom. Alright, so I had to find another old star just for this one bolt, because the big one was hitting this metal. So that's why I keep all kind of tools around, because they're different sizes and you never know which one's going to just happen to fit. Maybe too long, too short, too wide, too fat, too big, whatever. So again, I can feel the sponginess now without using the torque wrench of the bolts. And there's a little blue thread locker on there from the factory on the bolts, so it's going to let that lock it in there, and I just tighten. I can feel the perfect spot now. 3 of these, 2 on the bottom, already tightened, and I'll be done with this section right here, right there. Perfect spot, perfect tightness. Can you go back, double check? Yeah. Perfect. Just like that. So I think the next is the alternator. So we'll see what happens with that. So we're now at the alternator installation part. Supposed to orient it so this is on the top. That means that this is supposed to go, looks like it's hitting the radiator hose. Well, that fits in there like that, and then that fits in there like that. And the threads are, so I turn the radiator, the alternator. So that's going to go that way. And this is going to go this way, I presume. Let's tighten those up. I'm going to lunch. Well, I found another problem. This bolt that they gave is stripped without much pressure at all. I don't understand why they send these products out like that, but I'm gonna have to try to find something. Maybe I'll have to use a nut and a bolt to replace that. Not too happy about that, but what are you gonna do? Alright, so best I can figure is they put the wrong size bolt in their package, or didn't match, something to that effect. So I just found one out of my junk pile, shot it with a little Rust-Oleum silver paint since it was all rusty to make it look a little better, and fit in there pretty snug. So all I really need to do now is tighten it down, and it's pretty much similar to stock. I don't really like messing with these companies, trying to tell them to give me a new alternator first, a little thing like that. There you go, it's snug. Could even hit it with a little extra paint if I want. Cover up the, something like that. See that? Looks a little better. You know what? I don't think it's not going to hit the belt, but if it did hit the belt, I'll just move that around. And now the next thing is a brace. It's going to go like something like that. So I'm going to go look at the directions, so I'll be back. So the brace, they give you a spacer. They tell you to hook it to the bolt for the header, but this small block has an extra auxiliary bolt hole next to the header, which this, in my opinion, fits on just fine. So I don't have to mess with my header bolt. This is the, I was using it as the ground for the battery. So I could take it out if I wanted to use this as the ground. But I like the fact, you see these let's give you a little tip. These header bolt holes are sensitive and they have a tendency to strip, which really just like frustrates. Like this isn't bolting in correctly because it's a little crooked. The more you unscrew them and screw them back in, the more the chance you take of messing up the threads. And it may be from a mechanic that worked on the engine before you messed it up. So once you have the bolt in there and it's not leaking, you don't want to take it out, because the next time it may not fit in there right, may go in crooked, may strip something, and now you got a stripped header bolt hole on your block. So if I can hook it to the auxiliary hole without touching this, so much more the better. That's the point I was trying to make, is that if it fits, I would even go so far as to modify this, even if it didn't fit. Make the get the drill and make a little bigger hole if it didn't fit right. But since I don't have to do that, I'm not gonna. See how I don't go too tight, because I don't want to strip this. This is all cheap pot metal and it strips, so you don't want to crank it like finger tight is all you need. That's the way you got to work on these cars, man. You have to be sensitive about these things. They're not indestructible. They will mess up. Down here looks like a 9/16. So we'll just tighten that into, there's quite a bit of space left in there, but I'm not really worried about this that much, to tell you the truth. It may reduce some of the vibration for the alternator, but as long as I get a little bit nice and snug like that, I feel a little tension, that much, I'm done. Then we got to do the one on the other side after we order the part. Alright, we're almost finished, except for I have to order that part or pick it up at the Chevy dealer. So the last part I saved so the fan wouldn't be in the way of everything. Is the hub for the water pump. Then, because I have a high performance fan blade. Kind of got to know which way this goes. So if you see, it is stamped front on. But you always want to kind of make sure by feeling the wind when it starts. The wind should be blowing this way, not this way, not forward. Blowing the heat off the engine. So I don't like the clutch fans. I mean, you know, theoretically they save gas, but then there's a mechanism in there that may break down and you don't even know it's broke down. So I just soon go with the hot rod, and I know it's spinning. If the engine's running, the fan is spinning. And this does something. Like, the faster it goes, these start spreading out. I'm not sure if there's some kind of hot rod trick. I would have to look that up. There's some kind of hot rod trick that makes that. Uh-oh. Looks like we're hitting something. We're hitting the, it's not a big deal. We're just hitting this line. Ooh, I don't know, it might even be hitting, looks like it's hitting the, that's not good. Gonna have to put another spacer in there. That looks like the fan is gonna hit pump. But may be able to just put some, I don't know, that is not good. Well, I'll have to think about that and get back with you. Okay, so the bolt that they have for the water pump is not the same thread as the bolt from the old water pump. The way you can tell that is that they don't interlock. Meaning one's probably metric, one's probably American. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Ace Hardware and I'm going to match the threads up to the length and get 4 of them or 5 in case I drop one maybe, so that I can put my original fan. This probably would be thinking you might want an electric fan, but I'm not really sure. I don't think I want an electric fan because electric fan motors burn out and then you got a problem unless you're going to stop at the store. But the regular fan does not burn out. It's always there. So that's the next step, but I'm almost done. Just a matter of picking up a couple more parts from the GM dealer and Ace Hardware. Oh, and also I'm putting spacers on each side of this. It kind of needs the middle thing to make it centered perfectly, but it still gives you a little space for some washers to pull it away from this edge. And I'm pretty sure that once it's not even touching, when the engine starts, the blades actually bend this way away from it. So as long as it's not touching, I'll be happy. And I also got to hook up my fuel line again. But it's project's starting to look pretty good. Okay, due to the fact that this stud broke when I tried to apply their torque specifications, twisted off, I had to wait a week and spend $15 at the GM dealer for a new stud, so that halted the project. temporarily. So that's why we're not using the torque specifications anymore. We're just going by good old-fashioned auto mechanics, how tight it should be. And now I have to hook up the brace. So after waiting a week for this stud to show up, I wound up losing little nuts and spacers. So I put a 15mm socket because I lost the spacer. I found an extra bolt, so it's not all shiny. It's a little rusty, but it's snugged up real good. And that's the brace for that. Next thing is the fan. So I had to go to Ace Hardware with the bolts that they sent me that were short to get ones to match the threads up and get ones that were longer. Or I guess they assume you have a electric fan, but I want a regular stock fan. Hot rod fan, so the motor won't burn out on a long trip. It'll just, but I think I need to put a couple of washers right here so the blade doesn't hit this. So we're gonna check that out and measure it and see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, it's almost totally together. I'll go through a couple of things. So the fan that I had, the blades are too wide. They were hitting this right here. Luckily I had this skinnier one. Had to do a little rust repair because I'm in Florida and everything rusts on that. I'm not sure how good it's going to keep the engine cool. Have to highway test it. But I do have an oversized radiator, so if you really want to keep your car cool, put an oversized radiator, like from some truck or something. But then, okay, so then the first problem I had was they don't actually tell you how to put the belt on. But in order to move this, they have a little square here. So you put your ratchet in there, and now you can move it, actually move it the other way. Move it. I tried to move it at first with this bolt and it just unscrewed. Then I figured out that's how you do it. I replumbed the fuel line, and but then I found another problem, which is the positive side of the alternator is touching the valve cover. And how I figured that out is I can't even fit a business card in there. Right. So to me that's touching. Even if it's micro not touching, a spark could jump, blow out the alternator. So I'm going to pull this off, trim a little bit off of here. I'm not even sure I could have got this bolt off, or this nut, to put on the wire. So I'm just going to pull this off, trim some off, put the wire on. And I put the fluid in. I got to put a little water in the radiator, some distilled water, and then I'm going to fire it up. Assuming nothing's touching anything, that could be dangerous. Move some things out of the way there. Make sure it's not going to touch. And I'll get right back with it. Okay, so one little unexpected problem was the power steering lines right here that I adjusted.
and once you adjust them, they have little rubber seals on the bottom, round rubber seals that are already dried up and cracking, and so once you move it, it leaks. Started shooting out power steering fluid. So it's always good to have a set of these different size round rubber seals to replace. You don't have to run to the store every time you need something. And so I'm going to start it up for you. I just had it started. It was running. However, it really needs a tune up. I'm going to put that new carburetor on. Is the next project. Get rid of all of this old beat up, rebuilt 17 times Edelbrock and put on a fuel injection computerized. Put a little gas in it. Alright, as you can see, it's working. I mean, you hear a lot of weird noises, but that's because I think I got header leaks and exhaust leaks and a little bit of flex plate touching the starter gear. It's making a screeching noise, but it's not really hurting anything. But these headers didn't fit in right, so there's pressure on them, and pressure is making it leak and things of that nature. So I'm not going to worry about it because it's too much trouble at this point. We'll see how it does on the highway. But there you have it, the project. Serpentine belt system all hooked up and running.